Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Okay. I've got one more groaner. Are you ready for this one? Here we go. An invisible man marries an invisible woman, and the kids weren't much to look at either. Oh. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. No more groaners, I promise. Thank you, Kate Smith. Please, I'm sick of winter. I don't want any more angel dandruff, but we're getting it right now. My goodness, good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service, 734-6969. And now it's time for our Patriots and, of course, our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
Is it you?
I am. I figured I'd do it on this blistery cold morning.
Oh, well, you just go right ahead, young man.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done, and right now it's time for our weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. You know, they say if you're going for a farmhouse style in your inside of the interior and decor, try soft silvers, whites, and wood to make that farmhouse effect. It will work. They know it does, because whatever you need to make your house a home, they can help you at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, home decor. Yep, whatever you need to make your house a home. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And right now, here's the weather.
Grab your snow shovels, because here we go again. We are in a winter storm warning through about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. And yes, we are expecting more snow showers in the forecast. Anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected for today. Plus, we've got the wind that's adding to the drifting factor out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 27 for today. Tonight, a low of 20. Hopefully those snow showers will be kind of dissipating in the overnight hours, but we are still expecting accumulations of about less than an inch. Low of 24 tomorrow. Cloudy skies, high of 25 with an overnight low of 15. Cloudy for Thursday, high of 23, and then mostly cloudy for Friday and a high of 23. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I am sick of winter. I'm sick of snow. I know all the skiers out there and the snow machine enthusiasts, they love it, but oh, please. Weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, 678-6945. Really good, folks. Oh, hey, don't forget that this coming Thursday, you'd better believe it, it's sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Merv, May, Cade, Rocky, Lance, Udy, the sale that works for you. And for cattle consignment information or information about the sale in general, call 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard with the best, starting at 10 o'clock, the sale that works for you. Burley Livestock Sale Yard on Thursday. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
I'm on my way to Blackfoot because I never made it to, Pocatello yesterday because of the roads. And one of the things that we've all got to be thoughtful about is if there's so many people off the road that there's not enough tow trucks to get them, out of the median or whatever, that it literally puts the strain on everybody. And then, of course, when there's people trying to go too fast and pass in a passing lane that is totally snow-covered, I know we're in a hurry in this world, but just this morning we had a truck literally jackknifed across the entire freeway, and a very precarious situation. And you can just imagine, and then you see diesel semis in the median, and you know how these semis will pass you or me?
Yep.
And, you say to yourself, well, if that thing ever starts to slide, we're all cooked.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think these truck drivers think they're invincible because, they're so protected, so to speak. But it's a very treacherous thing out here.
Well, Randy,
I'm on the road right now. People are sitting in their cars in the median, and they can't get out, and they're waiting for a tow truck,
Randy, I'll tell you one thing. What you said is 100% correct. And last Friday, going into town, with all the ice on the road and everything, you couldn't go the speed limit, and if you did, you were exceeding what the natural conditions were telling you. And I'm going into town on Addison Avenue, going into Twin Falls, and some nincompoop with the IQ of a wheelbarrow passed me about 100 feet from the intersection where he had to stop, and he hit the brakes, slid through the stop sign, and kept on going.
Well, I tell you, people it's like reality doesn't strike until you realize that you are, last winter I was driving down the road, this guy in a Suburban passed me, and I thought, man, you are risky business. And then he proceeded to start to spin.
Yeah.
And he spin every which way you can imagine because he must have been going 60, 65 on sheet of ice. And he finally stopped and just barely missed sliding down in front of me and hitting me. And, he could have hit me. And then when he finally came to us, I watched the whole thing. And when I came to a stop and I drove past at 40, 45 if I'm lucky, and the look on that guy's face. But you see, this is how it is with people.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's politics or driving on an icy road, we don't seem to take any heed until it crashes through our door.
I agree with you.
So we need to be a proactive, but we also need to be, wise.
I agree with you. Randy, drive carefully going up that way. And thank you for your call this morning.
It's a disaster. Thanks,
Okay, buddy. Thanks a lot. So true. Be careful out there. I can't believe some of these guys. And then this yodel that had, like I said, he was about 3 shades shy of having a full load, rode my bumper all the way down the street before he did this idiotic thing of passing me. He's probably just about 8 feet off my bumper in those conditions. And, you just want to reach out like AT&T and touch somebody. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, stop in there. They are the world's best cleaner. They can take all your old rumply crumplies and make them look brand spanking new. By the way, too, don't forget, if you prepay, you get a discount, 10% discount. So stop in and see my friends Kevin and Cindy today at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The best cleaner in the world. Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. You stop in and see them today. When you talk about the best people, you've got to also mention Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. And the number to call ahead for something you might need, heating or electrical needs, or maybe the furnace filters, keep that furnace happy so it treats you really nice and warm and toasty. 678-0459. That number again, 678-0459. They are the best for all your heating and electrical needs. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Really good folks. Chuck Schumer of the Democrats has to be one of the, let's call it like it is. He's a sleazy, very slow-minded man. And he did something yesterday. Wheels, by the way, can you turn it up with my headsets just a touch? It's a little bit low this morning, if you would. He did something yesterday that absolutely he could have ended up getting poked in the nose. What he did, and it was a confrontation on the Senate floor. I don't know if you saw this on the news or not. Most of the major networks, CBS, ABC, and CNN, NBC, they won't carry it because it shows how sleazy the Democrats can be sometimes. But anyway, on the Senate floor, there was a confrontation between Chuck Schumer and Representative Senator, Republican Senator Tom Cotton. Well, what happened was they were having a discussion about the past with Obama and the confirming of the nominees and everything. And all of a sudden, Schumer said, well, where were you 8 years ago? And that triggered Tom Cotton. I mean, boom. The explosion went off, and he got right up in Schumer's grill and put his finger in Schumer's face and told him what a stupid comment, because 8 years ago I was in Afghanistan getting my blank shot at. And Schumer had no response. Schumer was humbled. Schumer was put down where he should have been put down. And I say booyah to Republican Senator Tom Cotton. He got right up in, you can see it on the tape. I mean, if you do get a chance to see it, he walked right up into Schumer's face and stuck his finger right underneath his nose and told him, I was in Afghanistan getting my blank shot at. Where were you? I loved it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Leave the kids alone. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. Caller, I'll be right with you. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley, and the other location for the best of breakfast, lunch, and dinner at America's Diner, 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, my goodness, you've got to try those delicious sizzling skillet breakfasts. Oh, my, or look at the $4 menu. Oh, my goodness sakes, it's fantastic at Denny's Restaurant. The home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and they're located at 611 North Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Yes, they are America's Diner. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, I just want you to know, and I know you already know it, but isn't it nice that America is no longer going to get walked on, and that Mr. Cotton doing that? Yeah, he's finally had enough. People said he's mean and ignorant for doing that. No, he's sticking up for himself and stating the facts.
Wait a minute, caller. What you just said was very important to elaborate on. There have been the call that people said, oh, he was very obtuse and he was rude and everything for doing that. No way. When somebody makes a remark that lowers the status of what you have done, especially in the case of our veterans when they have served this country, I would have been tickled to death to see him grab the short end of Schumer's necktie and turn him into a thermometer.
So would I. And maybe we're going to get stuff like that, just like Trump with his Twitter feed. I know it's stupid, and he sometimes says some bad
not intelligent things, but you know what? He can instantly call the media out, and he's doing it, and they're not getting away with the stuff they've been getting away with.
That is 100% correct. That is 1,000% correct. And it was very I bit my tongue, sorry. It was very indicative of what happened yesterday at the news conference with Sean Spicer and the way he handled it. I mean, it was so professional. It was so abrupt. It was so informative. It was so, don't get in my face. Don't ask stupid questions. We're going to get the information out, and that's the way it is. I loved it.
I did, too. And then when he said, you know, you guys do that about Martin Luther King's bust being removed from the Oval Office, that can cause huge racial tensions that we already have enough of. And you guys go out and do something like that, and half the people that heard it still don't even know that it wasn't true.
I think that from now on, when Spicer has a daily press conference, I think he should stand up there at the podium, and before he does anything, he should look around the room and say, thank you all for coming. However, if you ask stupid, ignorant questions that do not pertain to anything that's happening with this administration, you will be asked to leave. I mean, some of those stupid so-called journalists ask questions just for no other reason than to try to make the administration look smaller.
Right. Right. All that comes to an end.
I appreciate your call. You brought it out this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Excellent. No, that man was right. I noticed, and I hate to use this cliche because it's been used so many times before, but oh, what the heck. There is a new sheriff in town. And quite frankly, you can change that cliche, and you can say, finally, there is a sheriff in town. Finally. With the Obama administration, with that mishmash of, oh, well, let's apologize to so-and-so and let's bow to so-and-so. Let's not do this. We might make somebody mad. Oh, if you do this, that's a red line. If you cross it, we're going to get you. And then they crossed that line 73 times. It's so refreshing to see and hear what's going on. I'll stick my neck out on the line on this and say that yesterday, Trump probably did more for the safeguarding of America and putting America first in 8 hours than what I think Obama did in 8 years. Holy smokes, and it continues today. I love what's going on. I don't care who's offended by that. I don't care. I love what's going on. Let's also thank our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, they are the best. And I mean that. I'm not trying to be just theatrical or do a commercial. I mean they are the best. They care. They know their business. They know the exercises. They know all about how to help you get back to being you. Not brag. That's a fact. So please stop in and see Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists to help you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Number to call, 678-1191. I'll repeat it, 678-1191. They are the best. You call them today. Also, our dear friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Hello, Berry Equipment and Rental. How you doing? I really appreciate them. They've got 3 locations in Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. All the equipment rentals, all the retail equipment sales, and I've been mentioning to you they've got a lot of their used Bobcat equipment they're going to be selling at 0% interest for 48 months. Wow. All the equipment to get the job done right. Berry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. A Saturday Night Live writer did something very, very stupid. And there is no excuse for this. I never once, and I wouldn't, said anything at all about Obama's children, his 2 daughters. I never once said anything at all about Clinton and Chelsea. No, I think kids are off limits, and they should be. Politics is politics, criticism is criticism, but kids do not ever deserve to be criticized or made fun of. Well, a Saturday Night Live writer by the name of Katie Rich, she's probably wishing that she would have kept her big mouth shut and not tweeted that Barron Trump, listen to this is a heinous thing to say, Barron Trump will be this country's first home school shooter. How deplorable is that? And then the roof started to cave in, and necessarily so, because nearly 79,000 people immediately started a change.org petition for her to be fired immediately. Well, Katie, I think, saw the handwriting on the wall for her being a stupid lefty. And she said, I sincerely apologize for the insensitive tweet. I deeply regret my actions and offensive words. It was inexcusable, and I'm so sorry. You know, why is it that people, and they'll come out and say it was a mistake? No. It was not a mistake. It was her choice to do it in the first place. There is a huge difference between the words choice and mistake. If you make a mistake and you add up 2 and 2 and you come up with 5, that's a mistake. But if you choose to do something, which she did, that is a choice. And she did not ever think of the ramifications and repercussions. But to go after this young man, it was absolutely uncalled for, and I hope she does lose her job. It's going to take some of these people to get fired. But that wasn't it. All of it. No, not all of it. A television show that I have never watched, and I never will because I consider it to be so low class, or no class, Modern Family. One of the so-called stars by the name of Julie Bowen, and by the way, she appeared in Hillary Clinton's so-called fight song video last year, also received criticism last Friday when she posted a series of Instagram photos poking fun at Barron Trump's expressions during the inauguration. Hundreds of comments rolled in on Bowen's Instagram photos, many of them slamming the actress for mentioning Barron Trump at all. And this Julie Bowen tweeted a defense, and she said, I love that Barron is a kid being a kid. My kids would be a horror show at a public event, just trying to keep it light. That is a dumb Demobrat idea. And, I saw what she was tweeting about, too, and I want to post this to you so that you understand. In the background the other day, when Trump was signing his first proclamations, did you notice all the family and everything was standing in the Oval Office behind Donald Trump? Well, it was one of Trump's daughters with a baby, holding a baby, her baby. And the baby was acting up a little bit like all babies do at the most inopportune time and crying, kind of like this. Well, Barron Trump was standing there by the baby, and he did his very best to keep the baby occupied and play peekaboo with it a little bit so it'd be quiet. And the liberal left loons, people with hardly an IQ of a bobby pin, came after him and chided him for what he was doing. It's insane. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to remind you about our dear friends over at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Hello, Dr. Christine Pickup. My goodness sakes, she absolutely can help you with a hearing screening so that you can find out what the problems are and you can start hearing what you're missing. Absolutely. The Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids is the only locally owned and independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho. And this lady knows. I mean, underline the word knows. She knows all about sound and hearing. Please call for an appointment today, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, serving you. Really, really good folks over there. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bell.
Hi.
I love this sunshiny weather.
Where you at, lady?
In my living room with the lights on.
Okay. Holy cow.
No, I'm like 2 feet of buried under 2 feet of snow here.
Yeah.
Attacking the presidential children has always been off limits. And what about the statement that Rosie O'Donnell made about Barron being autistic?
Oh, my.
She has no business saying it. Somebody needs to put duct tape over her mouth if they could find a big enough roll. The adults choose their lifestyle, but their young children do not. And I thought Barron was very upstanding, and I thought he did a good job representing his family.
Well, let me ask you something, and be very honest, and if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me I'm wrong. But do you recall in the last 8 years of our unfortunate Obama administration, do you remember any Republicans or do you remember any conservatives poking fun at their children or going off limits to say something that was not directed directly at either Barack for his politics or Michelle for her involvement in the politics? Go ahead and tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. And I don't remember ever, their oldest daughter has a drug problem.
Now,
I don't remember anything about that being on the news.
Well, wait, whoa. I got to stop you there. And again, I'm not trying to criticize. I'm just trying to say until everything and facts are known, I don't go into opinions on a possible problem. I know there have been some reports like that, but nothing has been validated, and I won't put it on my program.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, that anything that the Obamas did was never chastised or... I thought Republicans did a pretty good job of not, condemning them for some of the things that they did.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, and I've asked this question to some of the people in politics. I asked some of the people back in D.C. at some of my various news sources, and I'm going to ask you, maybe maybe you heard, because I'm not aware of it. On the night that Obamas went to Illinois for the farewell speech, where was the oldest daughter? And in the pictures after that and the next day, where was the oldest daughter? I mean, my questions are like yours. I have heard the rumors and the innuendos, but I'm not going to repeat them because I don't have fact. But it was glaringly obvious that one of the daughters was not there for any of those ending events.
You're right, and I probably shouldn't have said what I did, but it has been reported on one station one time, and then it was never, So I don't know if it's actually true or not, but I did see pictures of her partying. But I don't know.
Well,
they wanted to exclude them from the farewell party at the Oval Office. I don't.
Well, the main thing I want to do on this program, and I hope you understand, is, and I don't mean to act like I'm chewing you out, but if something's not substantiated, I don't even want to put it on my program because there's too much garbage going out on newscasts and talk shows as it is.
Oh, no. I totally agree with you, and I usually don't, but, it was on the news one time.
Okay.
And pictures. But it's been so long ago. But, you know, it just goes to show that the left can do whatever they want to do and never be held accountable.
That's true.
But you let one little tiny incident. I thought Barron was really cute playing peekaboo with his nephew.
You know what was wrong with that? He was quiet, and he wanted to keep the baby quiet, and his older sister, the baby's mother, thanked him for what he was trying to do, and the liberal left has to chew it apart. You know, it's almost like the liberal left is sitting there in a cage, and they need more food, and the zookeeper's not bringing them enough, so they got to invent their own.
Well, I think you're right, and, you know, I hope we can keep them in their cage, and their caretakers need to feed them more. They need to leave Trump alone and let him do his job.
I agree with that. Take care of old George.
I'm going to.
All right, take care. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget our friends at Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley, and the annual January clearance sale going on now with all the Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid appliances on sale, and up to 45% off on 2016 model Serta mattresses. Oh, my goodness. Up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. Where I told you, Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley, big January clearance sale going on now. All right, your calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to tell you, the other day, last Friday, I was walking into the hospital, and I ran into a couple that were just coming out, and I don't know if I recognized who they were. Quite frankly, I'm in my older years. I can't remember a lot of names sometimes. I remember faces, but names. Anyway, this couple came out. They stopped. They looked at me and they said, "It is a great day, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, every day is a great day." And this man said, "No, today is especially great because Obama's gone and Trump is here." And they walked away. So kudos to those people. Nice people. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I felt like the air was cleaner lately. There's a new breeze blowing.
Yes, there is.
And I think that Americans, rather than maybe pass on what we're not absolutely sure, a rumor, let's keep our mouths quiet because the kids are off limits. We
Absolutely.
need to remember that.
Absolutely.
No matter how you felt about the politician, the kids should be off limits. And can you imagine what it might be like to be for a child of a president and go to a big snobbish university where everybody's got all kinds of reasons to think they're better than the next person standing next to them? They can start rumors, and it just goes like wildfire.
Okay, I want to say this, Chris, and you know this is true because you listen every day. You know that looking back into the Bush administration, that the Bushes had trouble with the two daughters. And not one single time on this program did I ever mention the problems that they were having with the two daughters while they were in college. And a lot of it became public knowledge, but I thought, no, I'm not going to go after these children. I did not go after Chelsea Clinton. I did not mention anything about Obama's daughters, and I still won't. I don't believe in it. But for the left to go after, like Barron Trump, I find it absolutely sleazy.
Well, and that's exactly right. They don't have any scruples. They don't care who they hurt in the opposing party. But I've always thought we Republicans are a higher class. Why do we even want to touch that? The kids have got to be off limits.
Absolutely.
And I think that Republicans need to call in everywhere and say, we are not going to spread this kind of crap.
No, I agree with you, and that's why on this program, anybody that comes in with a opinion or gives this, well, I know this is true, I want to verify it first, and I'm not ever going to have anything said without verification, and I know that puts some people in a position of being a little bit mad at me, but so be it. Unless it's verified, don't put it on my program. That's the way I feel.
Right, and I think that we Idahoans are on a higher stand. Let's be above the fray and just hope for the best for our country.
Hey, by the way, I got to ask you a question. Did you happen to hear the story about the lady that went absolutely schizo on an Alaskan airline flight yesterday? And she walked onto the plane, sat down with her husband, and the young man next to her, she said something to him, and he responded in a very polite way, and she took the assumption of the answer that he was a Trump voter and supporter, and she went after him, verbally assaulted him for 5-10 minutes, and finally she got thrown off the plane.
Boy, talk about a meltdown.
Oh, my.
Maybe Mr. Obama needs to send her some chocolate.
Well, what happened was she got on this plane and she asked him something about politics and that he had gone to the inaugural to celebrate the inauguration of Donald Trump, and she started calling this guy names. She started insulting him. She said he was a lowlife. She asked him if he had any children, and he said no, and she said that's good because what a terrible father you would be. And it got worse and worse because he was a Trump supporter and she was not. And finally, the police came on board along with the pilot and the flight attendants, and it was adios amigo. They threw her off the plane.
Well, we've all heard this little saying, liberalism is a mental disorder.
Oh, Chris, always good to talk to you.
I will leave it at that.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man. I saw the video. Somebody was shooting a video of this. I think it was the man that she was assaulting, and I mean, she just went off the rails. And the poor husband of this rather loud-mouthed, very abusive woman, he sat there. He never opened his mouth, and he looked like at times in the video that he was just trying to read a book and ignore his wife. Oh, boy, how'd you like to be married to her? There was a story this morning on the news early about, I think the guy, and this is all from my remembrance of what I heard in passing, so don't hold me to it. A 70-year-old guy, he couldn't stand. He could not stand to be around his nagging wife. His nagging wife, she was picking at him 24/7. So we went out and robbed a bank and got 20 years, and he said, now, finally, I can get some peace. I love it. Hey, don't forget, oh my goodness, Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. Kenny and Dan, the whole crew at Snake River Auto Body and Paint. Number to call, 734-5790. They accept all insurance coverages, and they'll give you an estimate and get you scheduled for repair, and they are the best. I have referred so many people to them because they do a wonderful job. And quite frankly, they fixed my pickup a couple of times. Oh, they are good. Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. Call them today, 734-5790. Yeah, and the guy goes and robs a bank. No resistance, and they arrest him, and he gets 20 years, and he says, oh, finally, now I can get some peace. Oh, dear. Nothing, dear, out in the other room. Nothing at all. No inference there. Please don't get upset. Time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland and Burley, and Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Open 7 days a week. Minor emergencies, major care. Whether it's a cut, you need stitches, or a sprain, or a strain, or a cough, or a fever, whatever it might be, you be sure and stop over. Minor emergencies, major care at the Urgent Cares. Here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your snow shovels because here we go again. We are in a winter storm warning through about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. And yes, we are expecting more snow showers in the forecast. Anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected for today. Plus, we've got the wind that's adding to the drifting factor out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 27 for today. Tonight, a low of 20. Hopefully those snow showers will be kind of dissipating in the overnight hours, but we are still expecting accumulations of about less than an inch. Low of 24 tomorrow. Cloudy skies, high of 25 with an overnight low of 15. Cloudy for Thursday, high of 23, and then mostly cloudy for Friday and a high of 23. That is your weather for Zephyr Durant.
Oh, my. I've had enough of this snow. I went out and I had to snow plow my driveway twice yesterday. And finally I gave up after the wind and the drifts and everything. And I said, mush the Huskies we're going through. Hey, the weather brought to you by the Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you happen... And I've got the picture right here in my hand. See the picture of former President Bill Clinton looking at, quite frankly, staring at President Trump's wife, Melania. But that's not the funny part of the picture. You should see Hillary sitting next to him. I mean, the look on her face is one of, my purse has a brick in it, and you're about ready to get it on the left side of your face. I'm not kidding you. I got this picture right here. I'm holding it in my hand, and it's one of the funniest pictures I've seen in a long time. And in the background is a 4-star general that's looking at Trump and also looking at Melania. And if I were Bill Clinton, trouble in River City. Just thought I'd mention that to you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, we in Idaho can be oh so proud. Well, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek. We can be oh so proud because Sally Boynton Brown is a white woman. They emphasize that word in the story. White woman from Idaho running for the chairmanship of the Democratic National Committee. I saw her on television with the news clip about an hour ago. But here's what she said. If she gets the job as the DNC chairman, she said, quote, now listen carefully to this. My job is to shut other white people down when they want to interrupt. She said, and I'm going through the list of things she said, that the Black Lives Matter makes me sad that we're even having that conversation, and it tells me that white leaders in our party and whites have failed. And she said, among other jobs, she said she will undertake as the DNC chairman, this is one that really bothers me, is making sure that white people get that they have privilege. Oh, she'll be a dandy. And she went on to say that she has been soliciting insight and advice from people of color because you have the answers. So she said right there on television this morning, and then I have a printout of what she had said. She said that her job will be to shut other white people down. Oh, the Democrats. What happened to their party? What happened to the generations of the Kennedys, etc.? Oh, to have those days back again. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't know if you had a chance to really, really listen to the kooks, crackpots, and the ne'er-do-wells that spoke at the various marches over the weekend. You know, the Women's March, the liberals that were out there, and they were damning this and condemning this and everything else. But it was just absolutely so pathetic and so unprofessional and so childish as to what actress Ashley Judd said. I mean, she just was scary. I listened to it along with Deanne last night. We listened to most of what she had to say at the podium, which was like listening to a little 7-year-old try to put together an adult speech. It just didn't happen. And she went on in her diatribe comparing Trump to Hitler, and it was scary. And then Madonna. I mean, I've never liked her anyway. I thought she was and is one of the homeliest women I've ever seen in my life. And Madonna coming out there and saying, I'd like to blow up the White House. Well, if you and I said something like that, there would be a knock on the door. And those guys on the other side of the door would really like to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with you as to what did you mean when you said, I'd like to blow up the White House. Probably nothing will happen to Madonna. Probably nothing will happen to Ashley Judd. But in the court of public opinion, both of these women are complete losers. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, another note, too, to show you how pathetically low the left can go. There were a couple of ladies, and they were sisters-in-law. And what happened was the husband of the one lady, and he was the brother of the other one, he was killed in Afghanistan, serving our country. Well, the other night, at one of the inaugural balls, these two ladies had been invited to be there on behalf of a foundation for their husband and brother. And they pulled up in front of this inaugural ball, and they were running a little bit late because of all the traffic and all the weirdos on the street, all the protesters and everything. And when they got out of the car, they were pushed, they were spit on, and they were cursed because of who they are and what they represented. Isn't that despicable? Honestly, the stories that I can put on daily that are verifiable, all true, about how low-classed the left is in our society. Once you have loved to have had a great big Doberman in the back seat of that car, the first time that one of those ladies was pushed and or cursed and or spat upon. Here, Rover, dinner, that would have been well worth watching. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, of course, our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and boy, I'll bet you they were busy yesterday. You can hear the old speed wrenches going, boy, they were changing tires. They were putting on traction tires, snow and ice, muck and yuck tires, I'll tell you. And they've got them all for your cars, pickups, SUVs, you name it. Stop in and see them. And they've got all the tire chains and, of course, the best in batteries. It's going to get colder again. Yeah, they're only calling for highs in the 20s for a long time. And I suggest you get in there and check out the best in brake service and front-end alignments and shocks and struts. All of this and more at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yep, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, the best. Let's see, what else have I got here real quick? I don't have time for all that story, but I really do appreciate your calls and your thoughts and everything. And we're coming up next hour. By the way, I just want to throw this out at you. That march, or those groups of marches last weekend, all the liberals crying the blues. $90 million was supposedly the figure number that George Soros and his millions, billions, and trillions donated to help with this insurrection, with all these, I'm going to call it the way I see it, goofballs, absolutely going out and parading and yelling and screaming over nothing. Anyhow, $90 million. We're going to come back in a few minutes. Frosty Woldridge is here, and then we're going to have Craig Richardson from the Environmental and Energy Legal Institute. So we've got a lot of things coming up. Dr. History later on, and Representative Clark Kaufman from Filer. Got a lot of things cooking. Good morning. Stay tuned. Wheels, take it away. Oh, my. Good morning, good morning. And by the way, again, I want to mention that Gina sent us a list of the other school closings again for today. I'm going to go through that really quickly again if there's any questions in just a moment. Zev at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, you better believe it, and don't forget to get on the route service, and once a week, here comes that big truck, and they'll pick up your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. Wave goodbye. They are the best at what they do. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. You call them today. Don't forget, every morning when we start things off, hopefully he's got a cough drop over there, we always have our weather forecast brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, the best of all your home decor, kitchen construction, and carpet and flooring. Whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design in Burley. Wheels, what have you got real fast?
I was just going to say before you go to Frosty, Dr. History called in, and he will actually be calling in on a landline for his segment instead of coming out to the house since the roads are nasty.
Well, that big chicken. No, I don't blame him. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Don't forget again, Ark Animal Hospital. Oh, they've got warm hearts for cold noses. Absolutely. Don't forget, February, the next month, is Animal Dental Month, and they're offering 20% off on dental procedures for your pets. Oh, my goodness sakes, Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew. It's a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them and take care of them all. At Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street in Hayburn. Yep, it's true, the best. They have warm hearts for cold noses. Real quick, I'm going to go down the list of school closures again, and the list is as such that I have Albion Schools, Elmo Schools, Buell Schools, Cache County Schools, Dietrich, Filer, Hanson School, Heritage Academy, Idaho School Deaf and Blind and Gooding, Emmanuel Lutheran, Jerome Schools, Jerome Academy, Kimberly Schools, Malda Schools, Minidoka, Murtaugh, North Valley Academy, and St. Edward's School. And believe me, and let's see, did I mention Valley? Valley School District is also closed. Those are the ones as I have them. And these poor school administrators tearing their hair out trying to figure out how in the world are we going to make up those days. Right now, a former school teacher and a really good guy from Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to Tuesdays with you, and obviously we're really headed into quite an amazing 2017 with the new leadership of America being from an all-American leader. I'm very excited. Also, just before we get into the time we have together, Zeb, I really would call attention to all of the listeners across the nation. I just finished a 4-part series, and it's titled The Perfect Storm Descending Upon America. And part 1 was the immigration onslaught, and you can get that right there at newswithviews.com. Part 2 was the sociological impact of jamming cultures together. Part 3 was the environmental impact of adding 138 million more people to the United States, virtually all of it by immigration. And Part 4 are your actions to change course for America, and that's today. So you go to the website, newswithviews.com. You can see what you can do. And Zeb and I talk about this every week, and right now, the actions that you take are going to ensure that your children are not swimming in another 100 million immigrants that are going to be imported into this country if the 1965 Immigration Reform Act continues as it has since 1965. So please go to that column today, learn what you can do to change course and make a difference for your own children's lives. So I hope that everyone listening does that today. I've got a template letter up there. I've got all the addresses of Hannity. I've got the address of O'Reilly. I've got the address of Judge Janine. I've got all the addresses of the top people so that you at 60 Minutes crew, certainly Charlie Rose at PBS, and each one of you can write letters. If they get thousands of letters saying, hey, we want to have this conversation across the nation, then they're going to have to really pay attention to that. But if they don't get all of these letters, then, of course, they will continue to do nothing. So I'm excited about the possibilities on this, Zeb.
Absolutely. And kudos to you and a tip of the hat for a job well done on that 4-part series. Absolutely excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I mean, I put a lot of time into that. But again, I will put up my whole life into this because it's our country, it's our future, it's our children, it's our culture, it's our language, and it's our way of life. And I think it is imperative that we protect it and defend it for our children and future generations. And so I'm excited about this series really making impact.
Francis, I got to tell you that, and maybe you don't feel the same way, but since last Friday, I feel almost giddy. I feel good. I feel happy. I feel optimistic. I feel like we can take one of our hands and we can kind of shoo away that pesky Democratic fly that's been on our shoulder for 8 years. I feel good.
Well, I'm with you, and of course, many of you have seen me on Facebook. And I put these comments out on Facebook, and all of a sudden they get, all of the information, and it gets shared all over by thousands of people. And even my Paul Revere ride of the 21st century, way back in 2006, that got a resurgence, and I've got some of the videos that I put on Facebook, and it's got me giving speeches in front of Boston, the Boston Commons there. I mean, and I just said, here's what we need to do, and about building that wall. Everybody's getting all upset, and you hear all this stuff going on, and I mean, even Tucker Carlson's getting one Mexican American guy who's half American, half Mexican, but he thinks we're terrible, but he defends Mexico's really much worse laws on immigration there. But one of the things about building the wall, I said, because I'd been down to the wall, 5 different times in the last 10 years, and I've seen the drug runs, I've seen the trash and filth by the millions of literally millions of tons of trash down there along that 1,952-foot wall. But in the end, all we really have to do is enforce the employment laws and the transportation laws and the housing laws against those who are here in violation of our laws, in other words, illegal aliens. And it is a $2,000 fine for every hire of every illegal alien, and it's 5 years in prison, up to 5 years in prison. So whether it's a McDonald's or whether it's a Marriott hotel or whether it's a construction firm, whether it's a Hormel Foods or whether it's Tyson Chicken, you start putting these people, these CEOs, into shackles and prosecute them and throw them into jail, I guarantee you, the rest of the CEOs would fall into line. So we already have the laws on the books to absolutely lose and make sure that CEOs fire or let loose all of these illegal aliens. And of course, according to FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform, we have 8 to 10 million illegal aliens with full-time jobs in this country. Can you imagine, Zeb, 8 to 10 million jobs opening up to American citizens at a living wage? I'm so supportive of Donald Trump. I want to see the laws internally enforced. I also want to see the wall built, because I am ready to make sure that we are a secure, sovereign nation. So it's kind of exciting.
You know, I got to tell you, this morning early, there was a gentleman that had tweeted into Fox News, and the tweet, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it verbatim right in front of me, but the gist of the tweet was, holy cow, Donald Trump has done more in an 8-hour session in the Oval Office than Obama did in 8 years.
You know, he would be correct. The thing about Barack Obama, he coasted through 8 years. He coasted just as much as the Black Caucus coasts. He's been coasting. He literally he spent more time on the golf course than he did in the Oval Office, literally adjudicating and enforcing and carrying out the will of the American people. And so that tweet is right on the money. I'm amazed. I've got a lot of energy. You can tell it in my voice. You can tell it when we get together. And so do you, of course. But Donald Trump, he puts me to shame. I couldn't keep up with the guy. He's literally a 24-hour stay awake kind of guy or something. I don't know when he sleeps, but he has done so much in the last 3 days. And I mean, the next 100 days, he's gonna absolutely, completely bury anything that Barack Obama didn't do for the last 8 years. I'm excited as all get out.
I am too. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. You're on the air.
Not really a question, just comment. I think you're a little overzealous when you want to imprison employers. I think you might consider hitting them in the pocketbooks, but when you start imprisoning employers, who the hell's going to hire anybody because they're going to be in jail? And one-size-fits-all doesn't work when it comes to employing some of those job positions. The local dairies around here and that, where the hell you think they're going to find employees?
Well,
you're living in a fantasy land. You need to kind of reel it in a little bit and bring reality to the table. I agree with Trump and everything and all these things, but you got to reassess some things. You can't just use old laws on the books and throw the book at everybody and think that that's going to work. That's not going to fix your problems. That's going to create different ones.
Frosty, I'll have you respond to him. Go ahead.
Congratulations.
But that's an excellent comment. And, of course, we do have a guest, and I'm going to stand by my comments in the first place. You must enforce the laws, and I guarantee you when a bunch of CEOs go into shackles and then into the news and then they get prosecuted, then you're going to see the other CEOs are going to start releasing illegal aliens across the border, across the board. Now, we have laws on the books, H-1B visas, I think it's H-1-2A visas, that allow farmers to have legal, that's legal. Let me really put this down. Legal workers, employ workers from Mexico to come up and work on the farms. So when the farmers do the legal thing rather than the illegal thing, we all benefit. So I'm going to stay on my high horse, and I'm going to stand for the rule of law, and I'm going to stand for anyone who hires to hire legally. And then that will give American workers the ability to also get hired and be hired at a living wage. I'm sorry, this is not horseshoes. You can't get close and think that it's all going to work. So I am going to stay on my high horse and absolutely stand where I just said. And let's follow the rule of law.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. You've got to start somewhere. You have to start climbing the hill one step at a time, one rock at a time. You have to get around the monopoly board by going through Baltic Avenue and the others. And you got to miss the go to jail, do not miss jail card. You've got to get around. And if we're going to start cleaning this mess up, and this mess in America is getting bigger every day with illegal immigrants coming into this country, we've got to clean it up, and we can't keep letting this thing grow like a cancer. So I stand behind you.
Thank you. And it's just common sense. Again, every farmer doesn't have to hire illegal aliens. He can go through the H-1-2A visa program, and he can hire all of the work he needs at the wage that those H-2A workers will work. And so, what's the problem here? I'll stand by my statement again, and thank you very much for the support on that. We got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Our country is being overrun. I want to repeat. 500,000 illegal aliens jumped the border in 2016, and they'll do the same thing in 2017 if we don't secure the border.
And then also,
with our laws in place and with a new leader in the White House who's actually going to enforce the laws.
And here's the other part of the problem, too. I mean, we can talk about those that are running, jumping, or swimming, or whatever across the border. But we also are bringing in another problem to all of our major airports, whether it's Newark, whether it's JFK, whether it's Jacksonville, Florida, Chicago, etc., with the importation of the Middle Eastern folks, the Syrians in primary part of our discussion. We don't know who they are. The vetting process is not my words, but by many now that are in our military and also in the Homeland Security Department. The vetting process is ridiculous. I think we've got to tighten that aspect of it up severely.
Oh, there's no question. I think Donald Trump doesn't have to, absolutely stop specifically sit there and say we've got to register Muslims, which we need to. There's no question. Every Muslim has the opportunity to become a terrorist because that's the nature of the religion. It's dictated in the Quran. I've read the Quran. I can tell you it's a violent book and it's a terrorist handbook. But what we can do and what he can do by executive order is stop all immigration from terrorist countries. Well, vis-a-vis Muslim countries. And don't let this get past you. Jimmy Carter did it back when he was in office to stop any further Iranians from coming into the United States. It's called the McCarran-Walter Act, and he actually applied it. We had that particular act in 1952, and it absolutely stops any kind of an organization or anything, and that's what the Muslim and Islam is. It's an organization it's a political system, it's a religious system, and it's an economic system. And it diametrically opposes the U.S. Constitution, and it's actually illegal here in the United States. Simply by applying the law, all Muslims should be deported because they follow Islam and the Quran, which is a system that it counters and is completely and diametrically opposed to the U.S. Constitution.
Frosty, I don't know if you saw this confrontation, but I've got to have you respond to this, you being a veteran. But yesterday, did you see on videotape what happened on the Senate floor between Democrat Chuck Schumer and Republican Senator Tom Cotton? Did you see that?
I didn't see that. I wasn't up on that.
Well, let me tell you what happened in a kind of a nutshell. The Chuck Schumer has been doing all he can to delay the appointments of Trump's nominations. He's done everything he can to drag everything through the dirt, the muck, the yuck, and slow things down. Well, anyway, on the Senate floor yesterday, and I have seen the video, Schumer walks over to Republican Tom Cotton, and he starts talking to him, and he said in no uncertain terms, well, where were you 8 years ago when Obama was appointed? And Cotton stood right up in Schumer's grill, took his finger and put it underneath Schumer's nose, and he said, I'll tell you where I was. I was in Afghanistan getting my blank shot at.
Oh my gosh, I have got to go back and see that because there is, Schumer has done so much damage to the United States. If anybody goes back and looks at him in New York there, and he was the one that allowed Muhammad Atta to have a driver's license. I mean, Schumer's the one that helped all of the illegals that were part of the 19 hijackers get identification here in the United States when they overrode their visas. Chuck Schumer is not a real nice guy for the American people, and he certainly doesn't stand up for the American Constitution, and he's a fly in the ointment, essentially. But this was great that he would get up against a man who just stuck it back up his nose. That's fantastic.
You've got to see the video, and it's going to be hard to find it on certain networks because they won't show it, being that they're democratically inclined. But boy, when Cotton moved real close to Schumer, and he got in his grill and took his right hand and he put his finger under his nose and he said, "I was in Afghanistan getting my blank shot at," and that was end of conversation, close the book, walk away.
Applause by the American people.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'll give him a standing ovation. Also, one thing about Cotton, he has been on the Senate floor, and he hopefully will take over for Jeff Sessions of Alabama.
Yeah.
He is calling for a dramatic, and I mean dramatic, reduction of all immigration in the United States, and I'll stand behind him. In fact, I might do a national op-ed on Cotton because he is the new senator saying we don't need 1.2 million legal immigrants in this country every year that are taking away our jobs and literally deforming our culture and standing in the way of progress because they're all going on welfare. And he's going to really introduce some bills to literally rescind the 1965 Immigration Reform Act, because the fact is we don't want another 100 million immigrants in this country. We don't need them. We can't even sustain them. We'll not be able to survive them. So Senator Cotton is my man, and I'm going to really support him 100%.
I've got 2 minutes left, but I got to have you respond to this. The last weekend's women's marches across the United States, absolutely a frivolous waste of time and energy, and it was nothing more than leftist rhetoric against Trump and this administration. When you had the likes of Ashley Judd, the actress, that went out and compared him to Hitler and went into a tirade, and then Madonna saying, "Well, I want to go blow up the White House." I mean, these kooky actresses and singers, they get away with that. But if Frosty Woolridge or Zeb Bell said something so absolutely dramatic as that, we'd have the Secret Service knocking on our door right now.
Well, I think Madonna does have the Secret Service knocking on her door because she made a really veiled threat.
Yes.
But one of the things, and I talk to a lot of women, of course, I get a lot of emails from women, and I get a lot of feedback. And exactly what were the women marching against? Because here in America, ironically, women in America possess all the rights of men. I mean, women get to vote. Choice of dress, choice of job, choice of religion, choice of number of children to birth or not birth. They get the choice of where to live, choice of schools, choice of ideas, choice of political party, choice of president, choice of governor of their state. They get the choice of a car, choice of their hairstyle. They can choose any TV program. They have the choice of movies, choice of restaurant. Women have the choice of being gay or straight, single or married, or choice of words. They enjoy the equal protection under the law. If they get raped, a man goes to prison. If they get abused, the man goes to jail. In a divorce, they get 99% of the time they get the kids. You can add women who enjoy private bathrooms and private stalls. I mean, they own companies and corporations. They become movie stars, and they can even run for president. And another 100 choices. Zeb, if you go to a Muslim land, if you go to Saudi Arabia, and if you were gay, you will get killed immediately. And women are the property of husbands. They get honor killed to the tune of 20,000 women die every year because their husbands kill them. And female genital mutilation, and then there's arranged marriages. The reality is American women enjoy more than the most of the women in the third world countries around the world. And even in there, if they were marching against abortion rights or whatever they were marching against, they have the choice of abortion rights, Roe v. Wade, at this point in time. So what were they marching against would be my question, Zeb.
And you know what? If I were to try to follow that last little dissertation, I couldn't. And you did it all in one breath. I am really proud of you.
Well, my wife, Sandy, Sandy.
Yes.
She's a fireball. She's a house of fire. She speaks her mind, and she gets to do it. And I'll bet you Diaz the same way. We've got dynamic women. I love dynamic women. I love the women of America. They've got they've got their gumption, they got their true grit, they got their guts, and I support them. I even support their right to go out there and demonstrate, but I would really like to have a clearer understanding because, as Freud said, what do women want? Well, my wife lets me know what she wants, and I better well get it figured out.
You know what?
I feel like I'm a lucky man because Sandy does spell it out for me.
And with Deanne sitting less than 10 feet away, I am going to say the simple word, I concur. God bless you, my dear friend. I'm out of time, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Frosty Woldridge, have a good week.
God bless them.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Very well stated. We're going to pay some bills. Don't forget our friends at Ag Express Incorporated, and they're looking for drivers. That's right, full and part-time positions. Retired folks are welcome, and they'll work around your schedules 2 or 3 days a week, whatever works best for you, and you're home every night. New and maintained equipment, and listen to this, vacations 1 week after 6 months, 2 weeks after 1 year. Holy cow, and a lot of big benefits too, and a 401k plan. You'd better give them a call today. Ag Express, 438-8886 in Paul, and Twin Falls, 731-2495, and Burley, 670-7219. Call Ag Express right now. Oh, by the way, too, don't forget our friends over at Hanson Mortuary. You know, every time I get Joel Heward on my program, such a nice person, always with a smile on his face. His family, his staff, always there serving you and the community. Very community-oriented. And they always serve your family when there's the passing of a loved one with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please write the number down. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And we're just about ready to welcome Craig Richardson on the program. Stand by, Craig. I'm a-coming. I just got to get these in. Let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Man, this is where the fun is sold. I called Nick over there yesterday, and I said, hey, Nick, I really like that snowplow that I mounted on my four-wheeler. It works really, really well. I'll tell you what, they've got the snowplows, they've got the snow machines, they've got the timber sled systems, they've got all the four-wheelers, they've got all the accessories, they've got the best in the service department. What are you waiting for? Get over there Monday through Friday 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 5. Let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Good morning to the president of the Energy and Environmental Legal Institute, Craig Richardson. How you doing, Craig?
Doing pretty well, Zeb. How are you doing today?
Well, you're back in D.C., are you not?
Yeah, I am. We're getting back to a sort of a level of normalcy after having a whole bunch of people in here over the weekend, starting with the inaugural and then the march the next day. I think I've been here in Washington too long because I didn't want to go anywhere. I sort of locked myself up with enough food for the weekend and didn't even want to go outside.
Hey, tell me, though, seriously, what was it like in comparison, if you will, of the inauguration and all the folks happy about the new Trump administration versus the other side of the coin, and that would be the women's marches? I mean, what was the personality of both events?
Well, I'll start with the inaugural. I mean, I think that first of all, it was raining here, so I think that was some of that was probably affected some of the turnout. But, I mean, I would say that they were very happy, obviously, to have a president that's finally speaking to people outside of the left and right coast, essentially. You had somebody speaking to people in Idaho and elsewhere who I think were felt largely neglected for the last 8 years and probably the last 40 years. So I think from that perspective, it was a very positive day. At the same time, I'm sure you saw in the news, you also had violent anarchists throwing rocks at Starbucks and breaking windows, and you had, I know some people who went to the balls that night. They were the protesters or whatever they're called. They're actually turning out to be Soros-funded for the most part. Were throwing water and things on people who were all dressed up. So, you know, I felt a little frustrated that when the Messiah came to town 8 years ago, that he certainly wasn't greeted with any of this, right? And so
It's certainly, I guess, turnaround is not fair play in this case. They didn't afford those people who were coming in to celebrate this new president, or some just celebrate the peaceful transfer of power in general. I mean, I saw the news clips where some people, this was like their 8th or 9th one in a row they did do it. So I think from that perspective, it was, I thought, a little unfair. And then the next day you had most of the women's march come through, and they had them all across the country. And again, they're turning out a lot of Soros money behind that. It was very well organized. They had them all over the country in various cities. I still, quite to this point, not sure what they were protesting about. And I think I've seen a lot of backlash even from women who felt that the vulgarity of what they were promoting wasn't something that they wanted to be associated with. And I'm not sure, I think that feminist movement is becoming more and more radicalized. And you saw that with some of the signs and some of the vulgarity, and then, of course, topped off by Madonna saying that she wanted to blow the White House up. So, I think the more that kind of thing gets publicized, the more they lose, mainstream America, really. And I think if you look at the Trump election turnout, I believe, I don't know what the cutoff was. It was maybe 40 and above, white women 40 and above, voted for Trump over Hillary Clinton by 10 points or something. So I think in some ways you're seeing these extreme left movements, and I throw in there the corporate media as well, are dying a slow but necessary death here in front of our eyes.
I got to tell you something, Craig, before we start talking about energy. With the sight and the sound of the most repulsive part of what happened on the eve of the inauguration took place in the streets of Washington, D.C. You probably saw this. A 10-year-old punk kid on a school night at 9:45 Eastern Time setting a fire in the middle of a public thoroughfare. He was so proud at 10 years of age that he was out there setting that fire. And then when the news reporter went up and asked him, why are you doing this? And he just made an obscene gesture, and then he said, screw the President Trump. Where were this kid's parents? Where were they? And why was this kid left alone on a school night? If I was his mom or dad, I would have jerked him by the nape of the neck back and dragged him down the street to a car to go home. Is that the best the left can do, is show kids how to act in such a cowardly manner?
I was going to say, where does that come from? A 10-year-old kid, you could send him on a completely different trajectory if you had parents that gave him a completely different setting of values, so you understand where that ultimately comes from. You saw a lot of that. You saw the Saturday Night Live writer tweet out something about Trump's 10-year-old kid, Bannon, saying he's going to be the first homeschool shooter. There are no limits with them. There are no lines, and they're angry, right? And I think they all need anger management courses. Or classes. I mean, their side got resoundingly rejected, and America turned their backs finally on them. And as I said, you can't have that movement, you can't have the Marxist movements we've had in this country over the last 40 or 50 years if it wasn't a complicit corporate media pushing the narrative. And now I think they're understanding, or maybe it's their gut, they're realizing that this is over. That it's time for the adults to get back into charge.
Absolutely. Now,
it's not going to be pretty because they still have a very powerful voice in that corporate media. They still have allies that are promoting this as some sort of legitimate movement, and it's not.
Absolutely. Craig, let's talk energy a little bit, and I want to talk to you about Donald Trump and his America First energy plan. Your thoughts, good, bad, indifferent, what it's going to do for America. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's wonderful. I mean, first of all, you see a guy who, and he has America First foreign policy, America First trade. That's clearly a theme of this president. And when you saw that inaugural address, which I thought was very powerful, of course, the media presented it as if it was dark and dreary. It was dark and dreary if it was because they've ignored the workers in America and they've sold them down the river, and that affects everybody. Everybody needs a job. I mean, that's what empowers Americans. So I thought it was a very good speech, and I think he followed that up immediately with these set of America First plans that he's put out. Energy in particular touches every aspect of everybody's life. If you have a clean, affordable, reliable energy system, you are going to be a far better off country than if you don't. And we see those comparisons with the third world and our world. And it has implications in all areas. California has these crazy renewable standards, and their electric bills are already 40% higher. So when electricity rates are high, that means that corporations and small businesses can't employ as many people because they're spending money on electric bills. And that's just a shrinking of the economy. And we've seen that all throughout Europe because they've got these crazy plans already in place over there. And it affects people's abilities to heat their homes. And in Europe, they refer to it as the cost of electricity is like a second rent to them. And so they have less money to spend on the rest of the economy. And then you look at the opportunities in Trump's plan about opening up the resources in our own country. You think about the jobs of people that are going to be going and doing the fracking and the shale up in North Dakota. I mean, these are good jobs. These are highly skilled jobs. And then there's a spin-off of those communities where these jobs are going to be coming back in. And thankfully, he's talking about rebuilding the coal industry. And it's not just those particular jobs themselves, but it's the impact they have on all those communities, whether it's school systems that need the tax revenues from the coal jobs, or whether it's the local establishment where they go after work to hang out and unwind, and the local grocery store. I mean, these are what these jobs mean. It's not just one person going to work. It's the impact all the way down the line.
Craig, let me ask you, now there's a couple of pipelines that come into question as far as the transportation of oil across our great United States. The one that I'm the most worried about that might create a violent situation with the left and how they want to disrupt this is the Dakota pipeline, and I think the Trump administration is going to say, hey, wait a minute. All the rules and regulations have been followed. All the environmental studies have been adhered to. We're going to finish it. Get out of the way, here we come. But on the left, I'm afraid they're going to cause trouble. What are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely, and there's a reason why they picked that one in particular, and that's because it involves Native Americans. These people do everything that these people do is based on how it's going to look on television. That's their strategy for everything. It's a little like the Wizard of Oz with the man behind the green, with the green emerald, the wizard, right? So they picked that one because they knew that they could, even though a lot of the tribes had already worked and signed off on that previously, they knew that that was going to be good made-for-TV videos. And they already have the people, and I was at the Pruitt nomination hearing last week, and they brought in some people, some Native American people in full dress from the pipeline, and one of them got arrested. I mean, that's the theater that's what they're all about. They're all about theater. And yeah, that one's going to be, that's going to fire up all their base and all their fundraisers and all the people that get money out of Manhattan and San Francisco and Washington, D.C. I mean, that's what that's all for. And that will be, but at the same, underlying all that, and you hit the nail on the head, is that there was a rule of law. We have a set of promulgated rules that were followed. So what are you going to do? Just because they make theater out of one, is that going to be how you proceed with these things?
And one thing you mentioned a moment ago, Craig, I want you to elaborate on, is that the coal industry, Trump has shown his support for the coal industry, and this morning talking about rolling back or obliterating a lot of regulations that have been absolutely targeting the coal industry and other businesses to the point of almost putting them in oblivion. What are your thoughts? What do you think over the next 4-year period can optimistically happen for the coal industry?
Well, I think I just need to go back one step and remind people how we got here. When Obama was running for president as a candidate, he said in San Francisco, which also happens to be where all the big environmental groups are headquartered, like Sierra Club, he said, you can go build a coal-fired power plant if you want in America, but just know that if I'm elected president, you're going to go bankrupt. So that was what his warning shot was before he even came into power. And then when he came into power, we know through our Freedom of Information Act, we did a bunch of requests that went back to this very same time period 8 years ago, from the time he was elected until the time the transition was finished. And we saw essentially from the documents they released, they came into power with a plan that ultimately showed up as a clean power plan, which was their crown jewel. But prior to that, all of the things that they did were aimed at killing that industry. And they drove stock prices down from $80 a share down to the pennies. A couple of them went out of business or filed Chapter 11. They came in with a plan, and their plan, and literally the Sierra Club campaign is called War on Coal, and that's what they did. And it was very effective. The MRC Media Research Center has a documentary called Collateral Damage that went through West Virginia, a small county in West Virginia, and showed really how hard to hit those people are. And then, of course, on the flip side, you have George Soros. Once those coal stock prices fell down in the cents, he went running around buying up all the assets, right, when he was good, because coal will be here forever, I mean, in terms of our energy mix. So that's the backstory of what this president is coming into power to face. There's a lot of devastated communities out there because of coal. Mm-hmm. You also have the other added issue of free market in that you have cheap, plentiful natural gas. So coal, I think at one point was 45% of our electricity grid in America. That number was going down anyway because of the introduction of natural gas. So, but they were going to at least be on an even footing. So there will have to be some efforts put forth. First of all, you got to get rid of the regulations. You got to get rid of the Clean Power Plan once and for all. You got to get out of Paris. You've got to roll back a lot of these things, and then you've got to figure out ways that we can start getting those communities back on their feet again by getting coal back out of the ground. That's the only way you can get the coal industry back on its feet is to continue to mine coal. Absolutely.
In the article that was written by the Daily Caller's Michael Bastish, and there's a comment in there that I'd like you to elaborate on in a sentence, and it says, already, environmentalists and some liberal media outlets are panicking. There's no mention of climate change on the new White House .gov. And I quite frankly say, good. It's about time common sense prevailed and there was an open discussion on climate change, if there is such a thing, because of all the meteorologists, all the experts from the Heartland Institute all the way down the line. I have never had a pro-climate change, let's jump in with both feet on this program, but yet the media, our local newspapers, and many people, they look at us, me in particular, and say, oh my goodness, you must be dumber than a rock because you don't believe in climate change. What are your thoughts?
Yes, because you're a denier. I mean, not that, they're telling you, they go back to theater, right? And they use the word denier, which ties into Holocaust denier, and that means that you're crazy. That's essentially what they've done. I think in the end, the truth will win out in that there are, despite them running around saying that 97% of scientists agree on this, that's not true. First of all, scientists never agree on anything until ultimately it's hashed back and forth with peer-reviewed studies and replicated studies, none of which they've done in their modeling. And let's not forget that every single one of their models that came out 20 years ago has been flat out wrong. They said that the seas would be already covered up in Manhattan, the temperature would be, we'd be cooking to death and all that, and none of it has happened. So I think the best thing that's going to happen with this EPA is that it's going to go back to sound empirical science and no longer political science. What we've had for 8 years, actually longer, has been political science. And the emails that came out of the UK as part of ClimateGate showing them shutting out other scientists who disagree, blackballing them, changing data points, doing all that stuff that's come out publicly, but then we tried to pursue it, but the media basically buried it. All that's over. The best thing about the new EPA is they're going to rely on real science. They're going to dump it all, and they're going to show it all publicly. And they're going to say, you know what, we've had an 18-year pause. They refer to this huge curve going straight up, and it hasn't gone up at all. It's been flat. And guess what? The climate changes all the time. There's numerous variables. With all the variables, the wind and the sun and everything else, and they want to basically say that almost 100% of this is caused by CO2 by man-made, and it's just not true.
Your thoughts quickly, I'm down to the last 2 minutes in this segment, Craig, on the appointment of Rick Perry as the Secretary of Energy.
I think he's going to be, I think he'll be very good. Excuse me. He comes from Texas, obviously a very important energy, oil and gas producing state. He's been a governor, which means he's a good executive. He can administer a large department. I think he's also smart on these issues in terms of, energy department does a lot of innovative things. Unfortunately, they've been co-opted or hijacked into the green energy. And I think he's going to rein that in. And Tillerson, it looks like he's going to finally get a vote and come out. I think all of these guys are on the same page, basically, in terms of putting forth an America First energy policy. So I think he'll be good.
The president of the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, Craig Richardson, always welcome on this program. Sir, have a great day, and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Good, thanks, Ed. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, sir. Thank you. Very interesting conversation with Craig Richardson, and I appreciate his comments. Very candid comments and open comments about energy and Trump's America First energy plan. I say, hooray, hooray. It's about time. Let's get a weather forecast on here. Holy cow, it is still snowing outside. Back to the snowplow right after the program. The weather this hour brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. CPAs providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. And I'll tell you what, they really can help everybody from agriculture all the way to us city folks, people that are business owners. They can help anyone. So please give them a call today. 2 locations in Burley and Rupert. Burley 878-7000 and Rupert 436-5607. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company CPAs. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your snow shovels because here we go again. We are in a winter storm warning through about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. And yes, we are expecting more snow showers in the forecast. Anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected for today. Plus, we've got the wind that's adding to the drifting factor out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 27 for today. Tonight, a low of 20. Hopefully those snow showers will be kind of dissipating in the overnight hours, but we are still expecting accumulations of about less than an inch. Low of 24 tomorrow. Cloudy skies, high of 25 with an overnight low of 15. Cloudy for Thursday, high of 23, and then mostly cloudy for Friday and a high of 23. That is your weather for Zebit Duran.
I tell you, I'm so sick of winter. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. These are really the best people in the world to work with at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 620 5th Street in Rupert. CPAs that work for you, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. Calls are welcome. I've got time for a couple of your calls. Give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline. Love to hear from you. And yes, Dr. History will be on the air with us next half hour, but he's going to be doing it via the telephone this morning. I don't blame him. I mean, holy cow, the snow's still falling, and he's like I am. I don't want to go out in the snow. Well, he's at home, sitting on his couch, drinking tea, having cookies, and he'll pick up the phone and he'll call us next half hour. Don't forget to Cameron and Siemens Insurance, and they're right there on Highway 24 in Rupert. Yes, all the best of professional treatment to you, your family, your business with life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They are dedicated and devoted to serving you. So all you have to do is call and make an appointment. I've got to call them right after the program. As a matter of fact, excuse me for choking, 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really, really good, folks. All right, it's your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline. I would really, really, really like to talk to you, so give me a call. We'll talk about any subject that you want to talk about. Let's see, what else have we got here? Talked about George Soros earlier. We talked about that crazy woman on the flight that was issued off the plane because she was a Democrat, and she found out that next to her was a Republican that had voted for Trump, and she went into a tirade. Also yesterday, and I've taken some heat over this, but so be it. I've got a right to my opinion, and I'll express it. You do too if you want to call in here. Donald Trump, as president, said no to the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement, the TPP. And I think it's a good thing. Now, there are many groups, many associations that have criticized me in the state of Idaho, as a matter of fact, too, because of my anti-TPP thoughts. Well, I'm going to stand behind it because, quite frankly, I think it would have created too many American jobs lost and basically would be selling out our United States and American sovereignty. And for the benefit of some, and a great loss to others, and also what this country stands for, I was really happy. Now, I know some of the people in the cattle business, some of the people in agricultural groups, some of the other people, they were looking at this going, oh, yeah, we got to have it. Look what it'll do to our bottom line. But when you look at the entirety of what TPP trade agreement would have done to the United States and how it would have affected our jobs, our economy in general, and also our sovereignty, and put us at the whim and call of other countries where they had the thumb down on America, I'm glad that it got turned down. Okay, let me see. There was something else I was going to remind you of. We talked about all the school closures last hour. Of course, now it's too late. You know that they're closed by this time. And believe me, my sympathy goes out to all the school administrators. Like I said last hour, they must be absolutely just tearing their hair out. Well, we got to have this many hours, we've got to have this many days, and we haven't had a winter like this since probably 92 or 93. Holy cow, what are we going to do? But I wish them well. Another snow day, another stay-at-home day, and to all the parents are probably going, oh, please, get these kids back in school. Bring on 70-degree weather. I can just hear them. We're going to take a look. Wheels, by the way, how is it over at the station? Are you still getting a lot of snow?
We're getting some flurries when you go outside.
How are the roads over there?
Hold on.
Yes?
Covered.
They're covered. You had to look out the window. Okay. How is that ramp leading into the studio? Is it one where you're going out the door, you can go whee, or is it one that you got to watch out for?
You could say that. It's a little bit of both. Going down, it's like whee, and then once you hit the bottom, you could expect the chair tips over in my face playing in the snow.
I love it. I've been there. Oh, man. We're going to take a little break and come back after the CBS News. Zeb at the Ranch, Wheels, take it away. Oh, boy. Bring on the 70-degree weather. Let's get rid of the snow. I like snow at Christmas time, but then the day after it can all melt and turn to 75. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service, 734-6969. I want to talk to you about plumbing. I want to talk to you about a plumber. I want to talk to you about personality. I want to talk to you about service. I want to talk to you about Harris Plumbing NG. Nathan Harris. This man is so dedicated to being the most professional at his trade, and he is good. We've used him on many occasions right here. He is the best. Call him at 431-8633. Experience, service, gets the job done, gets a job done right. One call. That's all. Harris Plumbing NG. And he is good. Nathan Harris, 431-8633. You call him today. Right now it is time for, I feel lonesome in the studio. I'm looking over at the other microphone on the other side of the desk, and there's nobody there. Well, Dr. History is brought to you by Minnecash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport with Zach and the rest of the crew, serving you. We'll tell you a lot more about what they do and what they have at the mid-break during the program, but right now, with all of his silver-throated tones, here is Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
I'm lonesome.
Well, there's not going to be a lot of people coming out on the roads today.
You know, I have at least 375 things to get done before this weekend, and I'm not even going to get one of them done today. This is getting old, man. I'm sick of snow.
A lot of schools closed today.
Oh, my. Well, you made it to a telephone, thank goodness for that, with your little bunny slippers on, sitting at home by the kitchen table. What's going on in the world of Dr. History?
Well, we are going to talk about the military in the Old West.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the infantryman, and we've discussed around this a little bit, but I thought this would be a good one to talk about today. So, anyway, an infantry soldier basically headed into the field carrying most of his personal supplies on his back. Essential items in his field kit, particularly if combat was going to be coming on, consisted basically of a quart canteen of water, a rifle, an ammunition bandolier or a belt with a cartridge box, a box of 40 extra cartridges, and a bayonet with a 21-inch blade. Now, they carried that in a leather scabbard hanging from their belt, but, you know, bayonets were eventually given up, basically, in the West because most of the fighting of the Indians was not hand-to-hand combat. So carrying a bayonet was just kind of useless. So pretty much they quit carrying those. But they carried their rifles with a leather shoulder strap, just kind of like, you know, the pictures that we see. But the infantry's, they had a loop cartridge belt that held 40 or 50 rounds of ammunition ready for use. The soldiers also carried from 40 to 150 rounds of extra ammunition in their backpack. They call it a knapsack. I've always called it a backpack. But anyway, additional reserve ammunition was carried in the supply wagon or on a pack mule, packaged in wooden boxes of 1,000 rounds each. So even on a routine patrol, the supply column might take as many as 10,000 rounds of ammunition, which would be distributed among the company of 50 men, or which would be about 200 rounds per soldier. So, you know, they had quite a bit of ammunition, but you know, if they get to shooting like they do, that can be they can run out of ammunition pretty fast.
Well, yeah, but wait a minute. You're talking about all this ammo, and you're talking about the bayonets, and you're talking about what about food?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, in addition to weapons and ammunition, the infantrymen carried all of their individual equipment and supplies. So here's what he carried. Each man carried a half a tent.
Oh, my.
Okay, and a wool blanket and a rubberized waterproof blanket, which could be spread on the ground for sleeping and worn over the shoulders and tied with a cord in the rain. The men might be issued a field poncho, which was essentially the same rubber blanket, just with a hole slit up there for you to put your head through.
Yeah.
So, but a soldier might also carry some spare clothing and an overcoat for cold weather, but in the summer, those things were usually left behind. But when under the threat of an Indian attack, each soldier carried enough personal rations to last him for 2 or 3 days.
Oh.
So these provisions usually consisted of several pounds of salted meat, hardtack, about 12 biscuits a day. Now, hardtack, if people don't know what that is, that's basically nothing more than water and flour, and if they were lucky, they got a little salt mixed in with it. And hardtack actually originated with the British Navy.
Yeah.
The British ships.
And it's really about as good and tasty as chewing on a hockey puck.
or cardboard, I can imagine. But so they had their hardtack and some coffee. They had a meat can for the soldiers' ration of a kind of a greasy pork And that could also be used for boiling coffee, this can.
Okay.
Rations and utensils were carried in a cotton, they call it a haversack or a bread bag, which was worn over one's shoulder. So that's kind of what they would look like hiking through the country. But to carry their extra clothing and personal supplies, the infantrymen were issued a knapsack. Now, this was a pack made from a cotton cloth. Now, what they did is they covered this with a tar-like black paint to make it waterproof.
Uh-huh.
But in hot weather, this tar-like paint sometimes became soft and sticky and just smeared everywhere. I mean, you can just imagine that, in the hot sun with this tar stuff sticking to your side. But
how much?
Anyway, the packs were hot and uncomfortable, caused a lot of muscle soreness in the men's backs and shoulders. A lot of the soldiers actually adopted a different method of carrying their belongings. What they did is they rolled up their personal items in their blanket and tied the ends together, and then they would sling this over their shoulders, and you've seen pictures of that.
Oh, yeah.
With their blanket just tied on each end and carried over their shoulder.
Well, normally when you come here to the studio in the morning, that's how you come in the door.
That's right, with my snowshoes, right?
Right. But how much did all of this weigh? I mean, holy smokes, that had to be, all the stuff you're mentioning had to be some heft to it.
Oh, yeah, and I'm going to mention that. We're talking up to about 50 pounds.
Ooh, wow.
And we're talking walking. These guys aren't riding the horses. So this might be a good spot for a break if you want to.
I would love to, as we do this program via long distance this morning. Our program, Dr. History, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Hello, Zach and the rest of the crew over there. They've got all your flooring, all your carpeting. Oh, this is a great place and a great time to get in there and check out all the buys. You better believe it. And Zach can help line up contractors to do the installation work to you. I'm telling you, this is quite a place. Minnecasia Sales. They've also got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels, and they've got your Western windows. Holy cow, what are you waiting for? Get a hold of them today. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, and the number to call Zach and the crew, 878-2091. And now, back to Dr. History.
Okay, so we're talking about the knapsack or the blanket roll that they carried, and that usually contained a few small personal items. They would have a razor, a comb, a bar of soap, a plug of tobacco, a pipe, matches, a Bible, a deck of cards, pencil and paper, a candle, a sewing kit, and maybe a picture of their family or their wife or their sweetheart. But the sewing kit, they nicknamed it Housewife. And it was used frequently to mend clothing, which was often worn for months at a time during a campaign, and, pretty hard use in the field. Besides being poorly made in the first place, the sewing needle could also be used to puncture and drain a blister or take out a splinter or, so it's kind of a first aid kit almost.
Right.
But, and I wouldn't be surprised if they even used that to sew up cuts, I'm sure if you guys cut themselves with their knives or their hatchets or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So the sewing kit would come in handy there. But anyway, when all these supplies were loaded up, the soldier's gear usually weighed about 50 pounds.
Wow.
Now, his rifle alone weighed almost 7 pounds, and so carrying this, they typically marched 10 to 15 miles a day. And although it's not unusual for them to go as much as 20 miles in a day, and so you can imagine, the shoulder and back pain of carrying this for mile after mile, and probably places where it was either really rough going or desert. So,
let me ask you a question there, because in most, and I'm not saying all, but in most of the Western movies, we always see them as a cavalry. And we see them riding, and you very, very seldom, and I'm trying to think of any Western movies from Hollywood from the 40s on to now that have ever showed them as actually going out marching in the desert Southwest after, like, the Apaches, etc. Am I wrong?
No, that's true. And so that's one of the misconceptions, that they just figure all the military people were on horseback, and they weren't. But that's also the misconception about the forts. A lot of the forts they can picture with the wooden fence around the whole fort, and in fact, a lot of them were just nothing more than a few buildings,
right?
Tents.
Well, and what you said right there really makes a lot of sense, because here you are in the desert southwest, and out in the arid deserts, and in most of the movies, they will be riding into or out of these great big pine log fortresses. Where in the world do they get all the pines?
From Hollywood.
Yeah.
But the usual campaign clothing was what they called a blue undress uniform. And I don't know why they call it an undress uniform. But it consisted of a simple dark blue, they call it a blouse, I would call it a shirt, with 5 buttons. And instead of lace-up shoes, the infantrymen generally wore boots when marching, and they often tucked their trouser legs into the boots or tied them with a string to keep out the dust and the mud and the snow. And then they had a broad-brimmed, soft felt hat for protection from the sun. But keeping warm was a challenge. I mean, in the wintertime, especially in the mountains, I mean, we've lived here, Zeb. We've seen the mountains and the plains when it gets cold.
Yep.
I mean, it can get, way below zero.
Yeah, but even the same, though, Doc, in the summertime in the desert, there is a little bit of a chill that happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, daytime you can be sweating, at night you can freeze to death.
Yep.
But until the mid-1870s, when the Army quartermaster began issuing heavy-duty coats and fur mittens, the soldiers had to provide their own outerwear, consisting usually of, like, buffalo robes, I guess, when they could get them, woolen mittens, muskrat furs, caps with ear flaps. And the men also figured out how to make Army blankets into heavy-duty underwear.
Oh, really?
I thought you'd like that.
Not particularly, but it's interesting.
Well, so this one general, he describes it this way. He says, for underwear, the general idea being to have at least 2 kinds of material used, principally something called merino, which is a type of a wool, and perforated buckskin.
Oh, my.
So that was somehow put together in a combination to make their underwear. So we'll just leave it at that.
You talk about a buffalo robe, though. I mean, you and I both know that when you're talking about a buffalo robe to wear and keep warm in the winter on a march, that's not exactly the lightest piece of equipment either.
Yeah, and I don't know if they actually carried them, because usually they did have wagons with them to carry, food and supplies. So maybe they were able to put their robes over on the wagon.
I don't know.
But anyway, and as you mentioned, marching in hot weather it was rough. I mean, the Army uniforms were heavy. The troopers often stripped down to their shirts or actually cut off the sleeves and the legs of their long underwear to be more comfortable. And soldiers in the deserts of the Southwest, they became coated with alkali and dust, and a lot of the men covered their noses and mouths with their handkerchiefs to kind of filter out the dust a little bit. But by the end of the campaign, the clothes were in rags, the boots were worn out, their hair was long, scraggly beards, and preparations for long marches didn't leave a lot of time for personal hygiene.
Yeah. In other words, they didn't take a shower every night. But I got a question about the boots. Now, it would be so easy to overlook the fact that if that's an infantry and they're walking, they need to have the best footwear as was made during that time. But what did they do if all of a sudden they split out a boot, or they lost the heel on a boot, or the soles went out, or whatever? I mean, how did they fix that?
And everybody's feet are different sizes, but back then I think they made a kind of a generic size, and if you fit it, if your foot went in, you got to wear it.
Oh, good.
So, but Custer, actually, he made this note. He said, a soldier's toilet on an Indian campaign is a simple affair and requires little time for arranging. His clothes are gathered up hurriedly, no matter how, so long as he retains possession of them.
Oh, my.
Now, that's what Custer said about it. So.
Oh, my. And what did they get paid, by the way, per month? It was like $15, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was nothing. I mean, now the scouts and those guys, some of them got paid very well.
Oh.
I mean, some of the main scouts. But Of course, they weren't really military.
Boy, the scout that was scouting for General Custer got paid way too much.
He might have gone the other direction. But anyway, whenever possible, the soldiers in the field, they tried to find a campsite near water, not only for themselves, but for the horses and the mules. And because if the horses were unable to be used, the men in the mission would be immobilized.
Yeah.
So some water could be carried in the wagons, but their capacity was only so much. So it was vital that they find rivers and streams and lakes and ponds along the way. And mules could tolerate going without water for quite a while, but a horse can't.
Right.
They've got to have water. But a few soldiers' journals have mentioned a scarcity of water on campaign, and the animals just suffering through it, and they probably lost a lot of horses and mules.
Oh, I'm sure they did. But really, when you think about it, what a gruesome, hard lifestyle being in the United States Army back during the 1870s, during the Indian campaigns. If you were afoot, holy cow! The Indians in the Southwest were some of the greatest, I'll use this terminology, athletes. I've read about them, and they were trained to be able to run and walk for days without any water or any kind of amenities, and going up against these soldiers, it was kind of a mismatch.
Well, and they were amazing horsemen. I mean, they could ride, of course, bareback, full speed, and shoot arrows about as fast as, if they were on foot.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But, likewise, before seeing to their own needs, the cavalrymen had to take care of the horses. And as soon as they stopped to make camp, the men unsaddled, watered, and fed the animals. If the campsite was in a grassy area, the animals could graze, but the horses also needed supplemental grain.
Yeah.
And this was carried along either in saddlebags or in the supply wagons. And the horses would be tethered to the ground with a picket pin or tied to a tree. But while the animals were tended to, among the first tasks in setting up camp was making the fires for cooking. And generally, a few men were detailed to go out and gather wood, or in places where there were no trees, good old buffalo chips were used, and I'm sure that smelled really good cooking your dinner over.
Well, why don't you tell my audience that might not be aware of it, what really is comprised of being a buffalo chip?
When a buffalo eats something in the front end, something has to come out the back end. And I think that pretty well describes it.
Oh, I see.
So, anyway, and actually, these droppings were also known as prairie coal or Dakota soft coal, and I'm sure some other nicknames that we probably can't even say here. But anyway, sometimes if the troops were close to hostile Indians, fires were not allowed to give away their position, and some men had to eat cold rations and do without their coffee. But anyways, on small patrols, the soldiers set up their evening camp in pairs, and this kind of is interesting. They slept two to a tent because each pair spread their rubber blankets or ponchos on the ground. Then they put together their tent halves, which were sheets of heavy cotton canvas, and that fastened together with buttons. Okay?
Oh.
So the combined tarp, about 5 feet square, was strung over a piece of rope, tied to two trees, or simply stretched between a couple of poles or rifles, and then staked down with pegs. So this early version was opened at each end, and later models had flaps to shut out the weather. But the soldiers called these shelters dog tents or pup tents.
Oh.
And we've all heard of the pup tent.
Oh, yeah.
But can you imagine two guys in there that have been walking for a month? Anyway.
Nope. Not going to go there. Leave the doors open, the tent flats up. Yes, you betcha. But, really, you said that each soldier carried half a tent. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's so they could, like I say, and they'd put them together and sleep two to a pup tent.
I'll be darned.
Anyway, they said it was a pup tent because it's big enough for a dog, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So, to stay warm as well as to maintain battle readiness, the troops in the field slept with their clothes on.
Oh, boy.
So the soldiers on campaign were issued only one woolen blanket each, and a lot of them took along an extra blanket if they could get their hands on one.
Yeah.
But the cavalrymen had the advantage of using their saddle blanket for an additional covering.
Mm-hmm.
And on cold nights, two men or sometimes three would huddle together and share their blankets, try to keep warm, and The practice of men sharing a bed both in the military and in civilian life was not considered unusual, and so two soldiers shared a tent and often fought side by side with each other.
It would have been a great right guard commercial.
It would have been. Now on the major campaigns, supply wagons often carried some large, what they call conical tents, and they called them Sibley tents. And they were large enough to sleep about 10 to 15 men, and these tents were round, and the men actually slept in a circle like the spokes of a wheel,
really,
with their heads pointing out and their feet toward the center.
Really?
Yeah, so anyway, the Sibley tent, and they had one called the Sibley stove, which was a small portable iron stove intended for field use, and it was named after their inventor, a guy named General Henry Sibley.
So did they take their boots off? I can just imagine the melee that they had in the morning. Hey, you got my size 9. No, I got a size 12 over here.
I just try to imagine what that experience would have been like. I mean, I've camped up in the mountains and in the snow and stuff, and I had good stuff to use, but I don't know. It sounds like quite an experience. But.
Well, listen, you did a great job again this morning, even though it had to be via long distance, Dr. History, and please drive carefully going from your living room to the kitchen.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
You have a good day, Zach.
God bless you, man. Thanks. Dr. History brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew with the very, very best of flooring and carpeting. Oh, my goodness, all your luxury vinyl. They've got it all. Best place to buy, you give them a call, 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales bringing you Dr. History. Also, I quickly want to remind you that on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and I really, really appreciate all the guests on there, and of course our sponsors, Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, they're having all their winter clothes are 40% off. You better go buy a bunch right now with all this snow. And of course, they've got all the games and the puzzles and the Cherokee scrubs. It's a family store serving you. Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with the ambulatory surgery center, is the only place in southern Idaho that has glaucoma surgeries available. Your outpatient surgeries, and along with the life-saving colonoscopies, please call for more information where they can save you money. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley, 677-8888, along with the Child's World, bringing you Cassia County School Days. Right now we're going to take just a little bit of a break and come back with a good friend of ours, Representative Clark Kaufman from the legislative session. So stay tuned. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Hey, by the way, real quick, Ag Express is looking for drivers, and it's a great place to work. Full or part-time positions, retired folks are welcome, and they'll work around your schedule, and you'll be home every night. Boy, that's a blessing. And don't forget, too, they've got new and maintained equipment and vacations 1 full week after 6 months and 2 weeks after a year. All kinds of benefits. You better give them a call today. In Paul, call Dale at 438-8886. In Twin Falls, call Alan at 731-2495. And in Burley, call Chad at 670-7219. Ag Express, looking for drivers. You call them today. And by the way, real quick, I also want to remind you about our friends over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. Oh, my goodness, are you having a hard time getting a good night's sleep, Bunky? Well, they've got the best of mattresses. They've got the best of bedroom sets. They've got all your furniture, and they're having a huge inventory crunch right now. Clearance sale on many items. You can save up to 75%. You better get in there today. 12 months interest-free financing at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You stop in there and you'll see what I mean. Everything you're looking for is at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. right now, and I am going to say this right up front. This is one of the nicest men that I've had a chance to talk to that's a representative for the state of Idaho. He's really on top of everything that's going on, and I'd like to say good morning to District 25 Representative Clark Kaufman. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Deb. How are you? And thank you for that very kind introduction.
Well, I read everything off the card you sent me.
Very good.
Okay. Clark, how many years have you been in the legislature right now?
I'm just starting my third term, which is my fifth year.
And what are your thoughts? Is it a lot easier being a farmer over in Filer or being a state representative?
Well, it depends on the farm prices, really. Some of them are the same challenges. You're working with things that are unknown sometimes, and sometimes you take chances. But I like both of them. I think they're both very good occupations or careers or service to the public, growing food or legislating.
You know, Clark, let me ask you this question, and I really salute you for being a great farmer and then taking the big step to become a representative of the people. When you started 5 years ago as a freshman legislator and compared to what it is now going into the 2017 session, has it got any easier or are there still a lot of problems and pitfalls?
Well, it's easier in a lot of ways because you know more what to expect. The first year or two, you don't know what's coming at you. For example, the rules review. Our first year, we had no idea what the legislation the previous year that precipitated the rules was about. So we had a lot of questions on rules that now, having been in, we passed the law last year, and then the executive branch or the agencies write the rules, so we can see where it fits in. So that part of it is a lot easier. The harder part probably is making sure that you represent your constituents and bring bills or help them solve issues that they have. So you're a little more familiar with the process and how you get that done.
You know, I would imagine, now again, this is all supposition on my part, but when you were a first-time legislator up at the legislative session, I would imagine that after the initiation ceremonies, if you will, there were many times like you would sit at your desk and go, holy cow, what am I doing here? Didn't you get that feeling?
Yes, I did. What am I doing here, and how did I get here anyway? Well, the old joke is the first half year or so, you think, how did I get here? And then the rest of the year, you think, how did these other people get here?
It's true. Let's ask this question. When you are a legislator or a representative, I mean, you absolutely depend upon, I would imagine, the public feedback on a lot of issues in order for you to know what to do and what to say about various issues. Isn't that really what happens?
That's a good point, and I would ask your listeners to don't be shy about contacting us because we're accessible, and we read our emails, and especially the emails from our district. And if there's issues, sometimes we have a little broader information range of information on a subject, and if somebody is interested, they should get a hold of us, and we can share that with them, so that we're all making a decision based on the same information. That's really important, and I think it's really important that people be involved and look at legislation that affects them. Because if I'm voting on something and I don't know how it affects you, I may not vote right. So it's important to stay in touch with us. And I've got a list of people that I contact on certain subjects. CPAs or teachers or whatever the issue might be, and some touchstones, if you will. and that has been helpful for me too. But I'm always willing to add people to that list. So
let me ask.
I would appreciate your input.
Let me ask you this, Clark. And how do you, as a legislator and representative, how do you know when it is time to sit down and try to negotiate the ins and outs of a bill that may become law? How do you know that it's not just some frivolous activity or idea? When do you make a discernment that it has to be down on paper?
Well, that's a tough one. It depends on the issue. Some issues you're pretty well versed on, and it's black and white. Other issues, if a person representing a certain bill or a certain idea comes and visits with me and tells me their side of it, I always ask them, what problem does this bill solve? Why did you bring it? And who would be against it and why?
Yeah.
And that helps you get a more rounded look. And then I'll go find the person who would be against it and ask him for his side of the story, because I'm finding there's at least 2 and usually 4 to 6 sides to every story, different opinions, different views of it, how it affects different people. So you do that homework in phone calls and visiting and email, and then in the committees, that's where a lot of discussion takes place on a certain issue. And it's especially hard if there's a subject and you're not in the germane committee that is hearing it. Then you have to rely on fellow legislators that are in that committee and go visit with them and flush out what their thoughts are, both pro and con. So it's kind of a process, and it takes a while to get that established on every issue. And sometimes you don't decide what your vote will be on an issue until it comes to the floor. But generally, by the time it comes to the floor, you pretty well know what you're going to do with that issue or that bill.
Let me ask you this question then. And correct me if I'm wrong on these, but I believe you're on the Resources and Conservation Committee, the Revenue and Taxation Committee, and the Transportation and Defense Committee. Of those 3, which is your favorite and which is the hardest part of your job?
Well, I've always been a transportation person because I've been on the highway district in Filer for quite a number of years. I served on the local highway technical council for a number of years, and I've seen the shortfall in the funding and how it affects rural people. So I have a passion for transportation, but rev and tax is an awfully interesting committee.
Mm-hmm.
We hear, I was just looking here, let me pull that up. Today we had, I think, 6 bills this morning in rev and tax having to do with the tax code and corrections and stuff. These bills all came from the tax commission. But there's always something to be cleaned up or restated, or right. If there was a law passed that affects it, then it has to be the rules have to be rewritten and the code to follow, or the code written and then the rules to follow. But so those 2 are committees I've been on since I've been in the legislature. The last 4 years I was on the Business Committee, and that was a very interesting committee. But this year I requested, and the Speaker granted my request to go on the Resources and Conservation Committee. And one of the reasons I requested that was because of the water issues that we're having in not only the Magic Valley but all of Idaho. And I wanted to be better versed and be at the table when those things are discussed.
One of the issues that, and let me just throw this at you because you've been very, very eloquent and very knowledgeable about transportation issues, our roads. Yeah, I don't have to tell you, Clark, that our Highway 30 and other major thoroughfares are literally blowing up. They look like bombed out war zones. What about the money? What about the funding? What about the repair? Because, man, some of these roads are almost unusable.
And I agree with you, and I just read in the paper where the one out by your place is one of the worst in the state. So,
it is.
This weather is, first of all, if you take a local, let's say Murtaugh Highway District or
Twin Falls Highway District, Filer Highway District. If you take any of them, with all this snow, a lot of their budget is going to be eaten up in just snow removal and keeping the roads open so traffic can move. When you have a hit on your budget like that, then you have less to put on maintenance for the rest of the year. So this is going to be like a double hit this year with the breakup and the snow. It's just going to be a bad situation. I am working right now. In fact, I have a bill that was, I think it was RS'd yesterday, should be on my desk up there this morning, that will extend the surplus eliminator, which was the excess money over 4% of the state budget. Half goes to the savings account, and half goes to transportation. And previously, all of that money went to Idaho Transportation Department. The locals didn't get any.
Mm-hmm.
The bill that I've got coming now will make that 60% Transportation Department and 40% to the locals through the funding formula, just like the increase in the fuel tax was. So I think I told them I would support that bill, but I wasn't going to support it if the locals didn't get anything.
Right.
So we've extended this bill would extend the surplus eliminator out for 5 more years, and then have a sunset, and we'll look at it again.
And I feel
two or three other transportation funding bills that I'm working on that I just don't have all the particulars right now. Working with Associated General Contractors on an interesting idea that I'll share with you at some point when it's available. But we need more funding, because if you don't take care of the asset that you've got, your deficit spending, you're spending that bill right onto your kids.
Is the road repair or reconstruction, quite frankly, of the Highway 30, like the 5-mile stretch, 6-mile stretch west of my place all the way into Hanson? I mean, like I said, it is a war zone, and it can't be, in my opinion, patched up. They're going to have to resurface that whole thing from the get-go. The money with this hard winter, like you said, it's just not going to be in the budget. So where would the money come from? Because you can't go another year on these roads.
I don't have an answer for that. Hopefully this bill of mine will pass, and the state budget will come in with excess, and we'll get some of that money out to the locals to help fix that. And that road there is a state highway, so if there's surplus, they should have more money for that.
Yeah.
Their needs are big, just like the locals are. So everybody's got maintenance problems that they need to take care of. I don't know, Zeb, where the money would come from.
Yeah. I want, in the time remaining, you and I conversed a little bit this morning, and you really kind of shocked me about a new bill that you introduced yesterday, and quickly give us a synopsis on it. I was unaware that dog racing is not permissible in the state of Idaho. I didn't know that. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Well, the purpose of the bill that I brought was to provide an exemption for this type of live dog races, or the training of those dogs to compete in these little races conducted at county fairs, on which there's no parimutuel betting. Idaho Code 5425-14A just absolutely says there's no dog racing in Idaho. And so this bill that I've got just puts a provision in there to exempt these dog races at the fairs from that, so they can bring them in.
Absolutely.
So it's a felony if you race dogs in Idaho right now.
Well, believe me, I've got one little mini Aussie, mini Corgi, and a great big red dog that's too lazy to run, so don't worry, I'm not going to break the law. We have a caller with a question for you, Clark, and I've got about 3 minutes left at the most. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. Wyoming has about the best roads I've seen in any of the western states. And I was wondering why we can't build our roads like them, and so they last longer. And the last time I asked this question, I was told that it would cost too much.
All right. Well,
cost effective to make them right the first time.
Well, let's have him answer that on the air. Clark, go ahead and respond quickly, please.
Actually, I think Wyoming they do have good roads, and I think they used oil money, excess funds into their state, the oil money that they've had to build those roads. It is cheaper to build it right the first time. A lot of our local roads were built good for bobtail trucks and so on, but now we've got with industry and dairies and bigger trucks, heavier trucks, they just weren't built for that. So if we build them over again, we would build them for that, but it is expensive, and I wish I had a better answer for you.
You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, it says Transportation and Defense Committee. Now, when they say defense, quickly give me a example of what that terminology means for our state of Idaho.
All the bills that come from the Idaho National Guard and Gowan Field come through the Transportation Committee, because that's the defense part. The General Saylor out at the National Guard is the adjutant for the state of Idaho. So we're the committee that the National Guard comes to.
I see. I want to compliment you on being such a great guest, and please come back more often during this legislative session. From Filer, Idaho, Representative Clark Kaufman, a real true gentleman, does a good job. Clark, thank you so much.
Thanks, Zeb. You have a great day.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Just a nice guy. I appreciate him. Representative Clark Kaufman, and one of our legislative representatives at the session going on right now. Holy cow, we got to get a weather forecast. I can give you the weather. I can't say those words on the radio. And the weather is brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I keep mentioning this, but you've got to try it. That delicious oven-ready, marinated prime rib. Oh, all the meats are just absolutely fantastic. You're going to love it. Your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for well over 20 years. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew in Jerome. 324-7657. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Grab your snow shovels, because here we go again. We are in a winter storm warning through about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. And yes, we are expecting more snow showers in the forecast. Anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected for today. Plus, we've got the wind that's adding to the drifting factor out of the west, right around 15 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 27 for today. Tonight, a low of 20. Hopefully those snow showers will be kind of dissipating in the overnight hours, but we are still expecting accumulations of about less than an inch. Low of 24 tomorrow. Cloudy skies, high of 25 with an overnight low of 15. Cloudy for Thursday, high of 23, and then mostly cloudy for Friday and a high of 23. That is your weather for Zeb Duran.
Wow. I would just love her to get on the air and say, guess what? We've got 70-degree weather coming, but she didn't say that. Anyway, the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657, and it is true. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. It is good. Okay, let's see what else have we got cooking here. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to be talking to Dave Bigo, and Dave, of course, back in Indianapolis, Indiana, knows personally Vice President Mike Pence. That should be really interesting. Going over the first couple days of the Trump administration. I can't wait to hear what he says. Then we are scheduled to talk to the Speaker of the House, and that's Scott Bedke, up in Boise for our legislative update. And then my 10:06 and my 10:30 guests have not yet been confirmed, so we're going to have to wait and see who they will be, and I'll get to work on that right after the program's over. It looks like I'm going to be out shoveling snow and plowing snow after the program's over also. Let's see, what else have I got here on our public service? Do I have any? Oh, that's what I was going to mention to you. If you have public service announcements that need to be made regarding your churches or your various groups, etc., go ahead and send those to me or email them at zebataranch@hotmail.com. I'll say it again, zebataranch@hotmail.com. zebataranch@hotmail.com is exactly what it is. I haven't said it for a long time. And we'd love to help you out on those. I know during the Christmas and New Year's holidays, it was really, really hard to get all the commercials in, plus the public service announcements. But now that we've got some time, we would be more than happy to help your organization. So send those to me if you would. Want to remind you, too, with all the snow and all the muck and the yuck out there, you better get in and check out your traction tires. Your traction tires, as I bit my tongue. Snow and ice tires for the mud and the yuck, and they've got the best at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I mean this. These people at all 7 locations, they really, really care. They work hard for you. They give you great service to get you back on the road and drive carefully and safer. That's right, they've got all the traction tires. They've got all the best in batteries to start that four-wheeled wonder in the cold conditions. They've got the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks, and struts. All you have to do is just stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. That's going to be it for today. I'm going to go out, stand in the middle of my yard, and do a sun and warmer temperatures dance. I'm sick of this stuff. I know the skiers and the snow machiners, they love it. I don't like it. I don't like slip sliding around. I don't like this, and I'm going to do my little dance. Let's see if it does any good. It'll probably turn colder, and we'll get another foot of snow. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and streaming live on the internet all over the universe on zebbell.com. And thank you, Wheels. Good job over at our station. And right now we remind you, the way things were are the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.